Hello friends, I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? I hope it's all fantastic. Everything here is great. Yeah, it's really good. Um, I, Another one of those days where I don't really have much to talk about. All I've been doing this week is working, um, either at work or on my prototype, the train game. I've been working on scripting some of the setup of it on Tabletop Simulator. I've played it on Tabletop Simulator with a friend, and it's just kind of fiddly. The what I have done with this game is it's deck driven, so you're drawing cards and playing cards, and the rounds end at a certain point in the deck, and that's just the cleanest way I could come up with for tracking rounds, because in a two-player game there's the whole, like, did I move the thing? I don't know. Did you move the thing? Like, what round are we on? You could also count your shares. I mean, it basically, once both players have 4, you end. Then once both players have 16, you end. That's a pain in the ass. So I came up with the idea. Well, I didn't actually. M came up with the idea of putting cards in the deck that in the round, so that you don't have to. Nobody has to keep track of anything or count stuff. It's just as soon as that card shows up, the round ends. Start the next round. And it's clean and it works really well in person. In Tabletop Simulator, to take a deck of cards and split it into piles, first you have to shuffle it, then you have to remove some from the game, deal hands, put some out on the table, separated the deck into piles, put a round end card in between. It's actually kind of a pain in the butt. Kind of annoying. And Tabletop Simulator uses Lua as its language, and Lua is extremely bizarre. I'm a developer. I think most of you know that. I've been a developer for the past 10 years or so, professionally. Lua is bizarre. It's a very bizarre language. It does very strange things in very weird ways. But I'm getting through it. The documentation is okay for Tabletop Simulator. The documentation for Lua is pretty bad, honestly. Just trying to find decent examples. There's just nobody using it, right? It's just such a weird, obscure language that it doesn't have a whole lot of documentation. You're not finding stuff on Stack Overflow when you don't know how to do something. But I'm getting there. I've got to the point now where the deck builds itself and players' hands are dealt. It takes a little while. I need to adjust the times that things happen so that it'll build properly without screwing up. I need to work on that. But other than that, I'm now working on automating this tile layout. The tile layout is, there are 5 companies and 16 cities that need to be put on the board in specific places at random. So I'm working on trying to figure out how to make that work. And then once I get that working, then I can work on trying to figure out how to get the contracts to work, because each player starts with one, and then the others need to go face up in certain locations. So I think I'm going to have to make each one appear in a certain space or whatever. I don't know yet. I haven't figured all that out. It's really annoying. But I'm enjoying it, I guess. I'm at least having fun learning a new, I guess, language. Just learning a new way of doing things. It's working. I should say that it's working, but it's a little bit more. It's a little harder than I expected. It's kind of fiddly the way that you have to do things with Tabletop Simulator. It's kind of janky, and it's trial and error. But when I was a kid, that's how I learned programming. You know, I had an Atari. I had the old Atari home computer, not the 2600. It was an Atari 400, and it had a little membrane keyboard. It had a tape drive that came with it, and I had a BASIC cartridge, so the basic programming language. And that's how I learned. I've had a book that taught me, I think it was called 1001 Programs or something like that, and you literally just typed it in line by line and hit go. And I remember, the first program I got to successfully run that way was a blackjack program, and I remember tweaking parameters in there to try to see, increase my odds and that sort of stuff. And it was really fun, and that's how I learned. And from there, I started developing all kinds of stuff. I started working on, graphics on the screen and moving them around, and, I really just played. And this was at a time when there was no internet. Like, I couldn't go ask Stack Overflow how to do a thing I'm trying to figure out how to do. It was just good luck. Read the documentation, you know. And so I can remember we had when I was early 90s, so I was like 12ish, so 91, 92, somewhere around there. We got a IBM PS2 computer. It was a DOS-based computer. It didn't even have Windows 3.1 on it. And I was connecting to some local BBSs and America Online. And I don't know which resource I got from those, but I know somewhere along the way I found the Basic A book. Like here's how to program in Basic A. The documentation. And I printed it. Like all of it. On a tractor feed, dot matrix printer. My mom brought home boxes of tractor feed paper from work, and I can remember that thing ran for like 2 or 3 days, just printing this document. And it ended up being like inches thick, but it was my resource. Like, that is how you program, right? And then I ended up finding programming books for that sort of stuff, and I would start, just tinkering. And I feel like that's what I'm doing with this scripting, because it is so obscure. It's not something that you can just go easily figure out how to do what you're trying to do. You have to kind of fumble your way through it. And that's that's the story of most new APIs. If you're not familiar with the API, learning how the API wants you to do things. But this is also, on top of that, learning how this weird, obscure scripting language wants you to do things, which is different. Very, very different. So, I guess, between work and that project, I've been really busy, and then Em and I have just played a few games. We've been playing Magic the Gathering a little bit at night, and just kind of hanging out. So it's been a weird week, and hopefully I'll have more interesting topics to share next week. Hopefully I can find some time to play test this weekend, because I would like to get a new physical version of the game. I think, like most games that include a lot of little bits on a board, it's just so much easier to do in real life than it is on Tabletop Simulator. But I don't know. I'll just, I'll keep plugging away at it and testing it before I decide to throw more money at it. That being said, again, if you want to help me test, let me know, and we'll figure out a time and a way to communicate and play. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you, and I'll see you again on Monday. Today's word you should know to sound smart is necromancy. It is a noun meaning the ability to gain new knowledge by communicating with the dead, magic, and trickery in general. The so-called science of poll-taking is not a science at all, but mere necromancy. E.B. White, an American author. Necromancy. Necromancy. Interesting that it says magic and trickery in general. I mean, at least from a gamer's perspective, necromancy is always about raising the dead and communicating with the dead.